What on earth has happened to the Green Party? I thought they were progressive atheists and woolly cardigans who knit their own yoghurt and stand for LGBTQ rights, feminism, and most importantly, the environment. But this is Mohsin Ali, a newly elected Green Party politician celebrating his win.
Gibson is a win for the people of Gaza who have been We will not be silent. We will raise the voice of Gaza. We will raise the voice of Palestine. Allahu Akbar.
Blimey, the Green Party have changed a bit. What a wonderful example of a modern multicultural Britain. He's shouting Allah Akbar, which I always thought was Arabic for look out, I'm going to explode, but apparently stands for please recycle responsibly. He's chanting Free Palestine and says this is a win for the people of Gaza. He's in for a shock when he finds out that Burnley isn't even in Gaza, it's in Britain. He's been elected to a local council, which is responsible for things like bin collections, not to oversee Britain's foreign policy to Israel. He's waving the flag of another country, the Palestinian flag, although in his defence, you're not allowed to wave a British flag in Britain anymore, or you get condemned as a racist and the cops beat you up. But there's no chance of Mr. Ali getting accused of being racist, even though there's a certain race of people he doesn't seem too keen on. If you want a clue as to which carbon the Green Party are now keen on reducing, he was part of an online mob who sent torrents of abuse to a local rabbi who'd served in Israel's army. Mr. Ali accused the rabbi of joining the IDF to kill women and children, and called him a kind of animal. The rabbi's family had to go into police protection following threats to their lives. And on October the 7th, the day of Hamas's slaughter of civilians in Israel, he posted a video justifying the slaughter.
Every single person, every single people have a right to fight back. Every single people have a right to live free of occupiers. You'll see the Western media support Israel. You see Western propagandists on the media presenting some kind of victim narrative. They're not victims, they're occupiers, they're colonialists, they're European colonialists. It's one of the last European colonies in the world. Remember, Israel is a colonial, settler colonial occupier. It's been trying to erase the history and trying to erase the legitimacy of a native population.
Erasing the legitimacy of a native population. It sounds terrible. I can't imagine what that feels like. But according to Mr. Ali, he's not racist, but anyone who's slightly alarmed at the sight of an elected British politician screaming Allah Akbar is. Mr. Ali said, it's not unusual for someone of my faith to use the words Allah Akbar as an expression of gratitude and celebration. Some have sought to misrepresent this, and it suggests Islamophobia to me. Did you get that? He says it's perfectly normal for someone of his faith to scream Allah Akbar when they're elected, and if you don't like it, you're Islamophobic. Yeah, this is perfectly normal, you bigots. What are you worried about? Name one country run by Islamists that isn't a glorious liberal paradise. Can you imagine the uproar if a right-wing candidate had been part of a mob driving a Jewish family into hiding? But there's been absolute silence from the left-wing press over this, up until he apologised. The only mention of Mohsin Ali in The Guardian is gushing praise for him as a nice guy who's just interested in gardening. Although, to be honest, I don't find it that reassuring that he's got easy access to fertiliser. And he's not the only one. The local elections in Britain were a bit of an eye-opener, with 40 candidates elected based on their stance on the war in Gaza, even though local authorities have zero role in international affairs. Another Green Party councillor, Abdul Malik, is under investigation after he called Israel an oppressor just a few days after the Hamas attacks of October the 7th. To be honest, it seems pretty tame by comparison. Aurangzeb Ali won as an independent in Burnley. Here he is celebrating on horseback. The only thing that's missing is a Kalashnikov being fired into the air. I mean, the only way you can tell that this is Britain is that the weather's bad and there's evidence in the background of a welfare state. Rizwan Salim won a seat in Bradford in local elections. In a video posted last week, he warned that people voting for Labour are by default complicit in the genocide in Palestine. Local issues aside. I mean, yeah, who cares about local issues? And I don't know who this guy is, but I'm starting to get a consistent message.
We are coming for you in the general election. Anyone that stands with Zionism, we're coming after you. Free Palestine!
Some have said that this is why we need to put more work into assimilating people when they come to the UK. Yeah, if only someone had given these guys a leaflet on British culture. So what's going on? Why is there an alliance between the far left, the Green Party, and Islamists shouting Allah Akbar? Well, it's not a new thing. I'll explain how leftists helped Islamists seize power in Iran in 1979 and how that worked out for them. Spoiler alert, there wasn't a happy ending for the leftists. The Western left have completely changed. Take the Green Party, they're supposed to be concerned with the environment. Not anymore. We know this because the Green Party want to see a world without borders, even though allowing someone to move from the Congo to Britain increases their carbon footprint by around 120 times. Because in Britain, he, it's always a he, will have all the carbon intensive conveniences of modern life, electricity, heating and transportation. Plus, on a national level, open borders would result in a huge requirement for housing and infrastructure to be built, putting huge pressure on Britain's environment as well as releasing lots of carbon emissions. If the Green Party really wanted to keep carbon emissions down and preserve the environment, they'd want to seal the borders instead. The modern Green Party only care about environmental issues when it's a means to push communism, which it always is. All green issues seem to involve massive state control of the economy and the restrictions of individual freedoms. Instead of environmental issues, the Green Party now stand for identity politics. You can see this in their embrace of trans issues, even though the surgery and wigs mean that trans people result in much more plastic in the environment. Here's Green Party candidate Melissa Poulton, who you may be surprised to learn was assigned male at birth. You might think that Islam, which around the world isn't always the best ally of the LGBTQ community, might make a strange bedfellow with the trans-promoting Green Party. Well, I suppose at least Mothin Ali is wearing an ankle-length dress. But because they subscribe to critical race theory, leftists pigeonhole Muslims as the eternal victims of white supremacist oppression, and they see the power and unity of Islamists as useful in attacking the pillars of Western capitalist society. One thing that hasn't changed on the left is the desire to destroy capitalism and private property and any sense of tradition and unity in Western society. Leftism is the politics of envy, and every time the far left have taken power, it's just been an excuse for fat, ugly, useless people to steal from successful people. And why do Muslims ally with leftists? Well, let's hear from them.
To list, I would only vote left.
Why is that?
I saw them as very stupid. I would fear the conservatives because they come with principle. That's not someone they can brainwash. But the left, I know they have no values and no principles to begin with. I dare you to find one Islamic extremist that votes for Donald Trump. Never do it. They'd give their vote to the leftist who wants to run around in pride parades. And Islamic extremists are against gays and homosexuals and transgenders, but they want the left to go and get busy with that. They want them, go speak about the climate, go speak about abortion.
The left have no values or principles to begin with. Interesting.
لكن من كل الكفار نحن حين نحكم بالإسلام لن يبقى في قوانيننا ذرة من قانون من غير الإسلام. ليس هذا فقط، ولن نسمح لغير مسلم أن يحكم المسلمين. كن واضح اليوم، يعني بعض إخوتنا اليوم يقول لك نحن يعني نستغل الديمقراطية لأجل الوصول إلى الحكم. أقول للكفار حتى لا ينخدعوا إخوتنا في الإسلام وإن كنا نخطئهم في الطريق، إذا وصلوا إلى الحكم عن طريق الديمقراطية ثم تمكنوا فإنهم لن يسمحوا لكافر أن يحكمهم بعد ذلك. يعني كونوا مطمئنين. أقصد بقولي هذا أردوغان أو رحم الله تعالى محمد مرسي، نفس الشيء. أينما وصل المسلمون للحكم يا أحبابنا بأي طريق يصلون لن يسمحوا لكافر أن يحكم المسلمين بعد ذلك. فيش عندنا تعدد بين الإسلام وكفر إحنا، لا في عندنا إسلام، فيش عندنا كفار بحكم الإسلام إحنا. لقوله تعالى ولن يجعل الله للكافرين على المؤمنين سبيلا. أما إذا كان إخوتنا الإسلاميين بدعبوكم بيقول لكم نعم نحن نحب تداول السلطة، هذا بيقولوا بتمسكنوا حتى يتمكنوا، إن تمكنوا لن يسمحوا لكافر أن يحكم المسلمين.
There's a huge power in voting along cultural or sectarian lines that can give a relatively small portion of the population an outside voice, and it's a vulnerability of democracy that it can be exploited like this. There are worrying signs of organised coercion by mosques, and nobody is immune to it. According to a politician from his own party, former Scottish leader Humza Yousaf pulled out of a key vote on gay rights under pressure from his mosque. There's even a pressure group called Muslim Vote that has issued a list of 18 demands to Keir Starmer, the Labour Party leader and likely the next Prime Minister, saying that he'll only get the support of Muslims if he agrees to do things like apologise for greenlighting a genocide in Gaza, allow Muslims to pray at school, ensure Sharia-compliant pensions are available at every workplace, and enforce a definition of Islamophobia that will make any criticism of Islamic rules illegal. In news that will surprise nobody, Muslim Vote supporters include a member of banned terror groups. Imagine far-right groups being allowed to organise and influence politics like this. Nazis, if you can ever find one, must look at the Green Party politicians getting away with open anti-Semitism and look at Muslim Vote allying with terrorists and think, man, this is exactly what we've been trying to do for years. Who does PR for these guys? As the Muslim population grows, and it's growing as the native population drops with higher fertility rates and mass immigration, legal and illegal, it doesn't matter which, they all get to stay. This is going to become a big issue, and it'll become less obvious too. Mohsin Ali let the mask slip when he screamed Allah Akbar, but the attention that this brought will let the next wave of Islamists know to be more discreet. And what does this all mean for the country? Well, you don't have to go back as far as 1930s Germany to find examples of totalitarian socialists allying themselves with Islamists. Islamists worked with leftists to overthrow the Shah's government in Iran in 1979. The Shah wasn't an ideal ruler, of course, but society was more free and tolerant under him than it is now. Left-wing groups such as Mujahideen-e-Khalq, an armed Marxist group, supported the Islamic leader Khomeini's rise to power by spreading the message that he was the awaited 12th Imam returning from occultation, whatever that means. I think I saw it on a loading screen on a PlayStation 2 game once. But once they'd helped the Islamists into power, those same Islamists now saw their liberal, leftist and moderate allies as a threat who opposed the system of rule by Islamic clerics and wanted democracy, freedom, feminism and a classless society. And also, the Islamic clerics hated the left for their tolerance and permissiveness.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
So once the leftists had fulfilled their role as useful idiots and helped the Islamists to power, the Islamists attacked them, first by saying that they were infected with Garbzadegi, the Western Plague, and were kafir or unbelievers. Islamist mobs then moved on to physically attacking leftist meeting places, bookstores and newsstands. Left-wing teachers, soldiers and civil servants were accused of being westernised and fired. Left-wing organisations were banned, their offices closed and their staff arrested. And then the executions started. In 6 months, close to 3,000 leftists were killed by Islamists in Iran. When the leftists retaliated, bombing the Islamic Republic Party, the Islamists hit back hard and the leftists fled across the border to Iraq, which was then at war with Iran. Then they returned with the support of Iraq's military to lead an uprising against the Islamic government of Iran. This uprising was quickly crushed and used as a pretext to start an organised mass slaughter of leftists who were already in prison. The Iranian leader, Ayatollah Khomeini, issued a formal order, seen here, saying that the leftists were waging war on God and are condemned to execution. Prisoners were tried by a 4-man commission, reassuringly known as the Death Committee, on charges such as waging war on God, often unrelated to the charges that had landed them in prison in the first place, which were usually relatively minor charges related to peaceful protest, distributing literature, or holding political views that were deemed to be illegal. Anyone arrested for more serious crimes had generally already been executed. Often prisoners were told that interviews were just to prepare for a general amnesty and their release, to lull them into a false sense of security before an interrogation that encouraged them to denounce their comrades and sought to find out if they were apostates who'd abandoned Islam. Interestingly, they were questioned about their parents and their childhood, and if they had devout Muslim parents, they were hanged. But if they hadn't been raised in a strict Muslim household, they were spared death because they hadn't been strict Muslims in the first place, so couldn't be true traitors to Islam. Some were killed for being atheist or being the wrong kind of Muslim. Many were tortured before being killed. Anyone who resisted was taken away and hanged in batches of 6. Children as young as 13 were hanged from cranes in public. All this provided inspiration for the dystopian novel The Handmaid's Tale, which envisaged a similar theocracy being established in the former USA. Women were treated less harshly for apostasy, as under Islamic law, women are not responsible for their actions. Maybe this is a bit of the feminism the leftists hope for when they help the Islamists into power. Amnesty International produced evidence linking Iranian officials to the massacre. This was back in the days when Amnesty were a genuine human rights group instead of the left-wing ideologists they are now, who attack heroes like Navalny as far-right bigots. In today's Iran, girls are beaten, raped and killed for crimes such as not wearing a headscarf. Gays are executed. The only progressive thing about Iran is it has a high proportion of transgender people, as gays are basically given the option, transition so your relationships are heterosexual, or be executed for homosexuality. It's a way for the Islamic government to wipe out homosexuality, kind of like the Tavistock Centre. And you think this could never happen here? It could never happen in Iran until it happened. In fact, it'll be easier to happen here. For Islamism to dominate a political force, there doesn't need to be a Muslim majority in the population. The left supports Islam, and the low testosterone levels of leftists make them crave subservience to a stronger force. British people won't stop it. They've had any sense of nation and independence beaten out of them, and any resistance will be snuffed out with accusations of racism, which under hate crime laws now comes with a prison sentence. The far right will support Islam too, attracted by authoritarianism and anti-Semitism. Having a politician celebrate his victory by screaming Allah Akbar should be a wake-up call, but it won't be. Britain will be Lebanon, then will be Iran. Anyone who questions it will be called racist, then jailed under hate crime laws, and then executed under Islamic laws. You can see right now there's complete silence in the left-wing media. Even if a left-wing person sees this video, they'll dismiss it as a conspiracy theory or racism. When Islamists take power in this country, the left will celebrate. But there is good news too. A lot of positive attributes are echoed in conservative and Muslim cultures. Respect, family, working hard to better yourself. In America, Muslims have allied with conservatives to get sexualized books out of schools and to stop the Pride Progress flag from being flown on state property. And I support gay rights, but I don't want drag queens in schools or gender ideology pushed on kids, and the progress flag is a political flag, so I think it's right not to fly it on public property. And the best thing is, progressives are scared of criticising Muslims, in case other progressives call them racist, so they're powerless to resist these changes when they come from Muslims. And did you not hear what I said about public hangings of leftists from cranes in the town square? We might lose our country, but can you imagine the picnics we'll have? I'm going to be there every weekend with a bottle of Prosecco, non-alcoholic of course, toasting the glory of the caliphate, while some fat blue-haired they-them who call me racist on Twitter swings in the breeze. Allah Akbar. I'll play us out with Congressman Chip Roy showing that he can see the issues in Britain from all the way over in America. Of course, he's been condemned as racist and Islamophobic. But first, I just want to say thanks for listening, and if you want to support me making these videos, you can become a Patreon and get exclusive content and early access and stuff. And I get money, which is great because I love money so much, and also I reinvest Patreon money in kit to make these videos. Okay, thanks for listening. I've been Leo Kears. Bye. Bye-bye.
Pretending it's not happening. I mean, is anybody paying attention to what's happening in London? I'm going to say it here on the floor of the House to get the scorn of people when I say you've got a massive Muslim takeover of the United Kingdom going on right before our eyes. They would say, Chip, well, what is wrong with that? Well, I've got some pretty strong concerns about Sharia law and whether that'll be forced upon the American people. In this case, the people of the United Kingdom. I've got pretty strong concerns about people who want to see Israel's destruction, who were happy about October 7th, who were elected in the United Kingdom. Some might say that we've seen that here in the United States. What are we going to do about that? We have 51.5 million people who are foreign born in the United States. They have about 20 to 25 million kids. That puts that well over 20-something% of our population. It's the highest such number in the history of our country. People say, well, isn't that great? Is it? Are we teaching people about Western civilization? Are we teaching people about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the rule of law? Are we teaching them Western values? Are we teaching them God exists? Are we teaching them the importance of freedom? Or are we teaching an entire generation or two or three to run around complaining about what's wrong and why the entire world is against them because of their skin color, their sex, their supposed gender identity, whatever the hell category we create to make people have an excuse for not just stepping up and achieving the American dream. But that's what we're doing. Our borders are wide open. People go, well, you know, it's bad. I mean, it's bad shit. What do you do about it? Stop it. Like, actually stop it.